Welcome back. This is a really good topic on the basic and foundationals on building a proper Google Ads search campaign strategy. So I'm going to go through this slide deck, but it's going to really give you an idea of how to build out that strategy properly from start to finish, and the idea behind intention of what you're going to be targeting, and then the levels of intention. So I'll get into it. I don't want to spoil anything. The premises is going to be what we call the pyramid of converting traffic. You can see on the little graph, we have low-hanging fruit campaigns, expanding your search strategy, medium risk scalable campaigns, then high risk, high reward campaigns. We're going to break down what each of those mean. But the premises is you want to build a very strong foundation and go upwards and not do it upside down. Because if you do upside down, maybe you'll get lucky and scale out a campaign here and that'll make money. But a lot of the times it's going to crash and burn the account. You're going to lose money. If you're running these ads for a client, you're probably going to lose a client. We really recommend always building out for the lowest hanging fruit first and then scaling outside of that. So this is going to be really big on the e-com side, anything personal brand, lead gen business. Once again, this is a core strategy and foundation that works for pretty much anyone running Google Ads. This is very prevalent in the e-com world because you're going to have a lot of different terms and product terms and cold traffic you can essentially go after. And you want to categorize what you're doing in the right method so you can go in a linear fashion, make sure you have the highest chance of succeeding. The ad strategy background is really going to be building the strong foundation, like I mentioned. At the end of the day, it's really just building the traffic from bottom to top, what you want to target in order, and then how you're going to want to go about targeting that, and then having the highest ability to test that type of traffic so you know what works and what doesn't work. And so you can continue testing new traffic with the budget that you cut out from what doesn't work, and then you keep running what was working with the pulled budget. You kind of get how that goes, cut out the fat, and keep moving on. And then maximizing the budget at each step, because at the end of the day, you don't want to go up that pyramid until you've spent as much money as possible at each level, because essentially each level is going to be the easiest to convert traffic before you move on. This is important because it's intent-based targeting. So I'll give you a little example. Let's talk about bicycles, right? You can get somebody searching, I want a recreational toy. It's probably super broad, right? But you get what I'm saying. Like maybe they don't know they want a bike yet. Maybe they want just something fun that they can do outdoors, and they're looking. That's as broad as it gets. They have no buyer awareness. You're essentially bringing the introduction of your product to them. And then it's up to you and them whether you can actually get them to convert, buy your product over something else. And then if you get to the very minute level of like the highest intent type targeting, you're going to get somebody who might be searching, I want this exact, XYZ brand bike. And if they want the bike they know they want the bike, they know they want to ride a bike, they know they're going to buy the bike. It's just a matter of, are you the right person to buy it from? So in between those two levels, there's going to be a pretty heavy amount of categories, right? But you get the idea there. It's going to break down from lowest intent, coldest traffic, to highest intent, warmest traffic. I don't mean warm in the sense they already know your brand, just warm in the sense of intention, if that makes sense. So let's keep moving on. Organization, segmentation. So building out the campaigns properly with organization and segmentation is really important, because if you're not doing that right, you're going to have low relevancy, throughout your campaigns. We talked about this in one of the other videos, throughout your campaigns and through the ad groups and even the account. And lower relevancy always means lower quality score. Lower quality score means Google's going to charge you more for the traffic you can get for cheaper. So when you do this, you're going to want to make sure to really categorize the traffic you're going after into separate ad groups and campaigns, so you can test those without disrupting other campaigns you have. And then as time moves on, you're really going to scale horizontally, leave the campaigns that are running, scale them as high as you can, spend as much budget as you can until you hit what we call the invisible ceiling, and then move on and test out new traffic. So the biggest thing there is just really making sure you're in control, because if you're not in control, you're going to lose money. Next thing is going to be on keyword strategy. So I've mentioned this a couple of times. Bottom-up approach. You're really going to want to go after the highest intent traffic, because at the end of the day, highest intent traffic is going to be the easiest to convert. If someone's telling you that they exactly want to buy your product and they're going to Google to search for it, if you can't convert that type of traffic, it's more than likely you're not going to be able to convert colder traffic. There are times where that doesn't always apply. But at the end of the day, proof of concept really happens at the bottom of that pyramid. Really, if you cannot convert the highest intent traffic, you got to work on the products you're selling. You got to work on the service you're selling. Maybe it's just the variables such as the landing page or website you're sending the traffic to. But the whole premise of that is you're going to really want to make sure you convert it before moving on to the next step, because if you don't, you're going to waste money. So next thing is going to be precise targeting to desired audience. So what that really means is cherry picking the longer tail keywords you want to go after, and then using something like phrase match targeting to control the traffic you're getting. Because if you go broad or broad match, if you're familiar with how the match types work, it's going to give you synonyms of the terms. It's going to give you variations of the terms. It might even give you totally different versions of the terms. And it's not going to allow you to control the type of traffic that's going to the actual site and the ads that you're running. So Really recommend always having strong control on the keyword side because, like I said, you want that proof of concept before you go broader. So this is pretty much the process. Phase one, low-hanging fruit campaigns, easiest to convert traffic, max that out first before you move on to this next phase, which is expanding your search strategy. That's going to be really going after colder traffic pools. You know, the golden goal and dream is to go as cold as possible because generally as cold as possible means a lot more room to scale. There's going to be higher search volumes if somebody's searching, I want to buy a bike versus somebody searching, I want to buy XYZ bike. So the higher you can get into the cold traffic and the more you can convert that traffic, the higher you're going to be able to scale your store or your business. And then phase three is going to be medium risk scalable campaigns. There's going to be a couple different categories in there. I won't mention that yet. Phase four is high risk, high reward campaigns. These are the campaigns that you don't want to try out first, but you do want to test eventually because if they do hit and you make money from them, you can scale that stuff to the moon. You're going to make a ton of money if it does work out. So low hanging fruit campaigns, you're going to want to go after branded traffic, low CPC cost. A lot of people, a little controversial about branded traffic. If you do go after it, make sure you mentally know that that is going to dilute the ROI numbers of your account because you don't want to see the branded ROI and conversions you're getting from these campaigns and average it out with the cold ones because it's going to look like your campaign's doing or your account's doing amazing overall, but you could have losing campaigns still on the cold side. So next thing is going to be product targeting, high intent keywords. So this is going to be on the actual cold traffic. You're going to want to go after people who are searching your exact types of products. If you can get those people to your website and convert them, then you can move on to the next stage. You're going to have remarketing on the display and YouTube side. Display is tricky. It's a lot different than it was back in the day. Back in the day, you could run a really simple display campaign, not really watch it. This is probably 5+ years ago. Let it run. It would just keep making you money, right? It's not like that nowadays. They opened up the display placements to Google's full display network. And what that means is there's hundreds of thousands of websites that's partnered with Google and it's going to show the display campaigns there. You're going to get great interaction rate, but you're never, if not, barely going to sell any actual product. So if you do display, really recommend controlling the placements or at least low budget it until you confirm it's actually converting. Some people have this weird concept that like displays the way and they're just going to keep running and spending money even if they're not making money. It's bizarre, I know, but I've seen it a lot of times. And then YouTube's really great too if you have the content. Content's big here. It's hard to convert traffic if you don't have really quality videos or at least videos with high quality information. It doesn't have to necessarily be like the best video quality or mic quality or whatever it is, although definitely recommend it. But there has to be some kind of intrinsic value in that video, whether it's visual or information, to get them to actually go to the website and to even get them to come back and buy, because these videos are really going to be about creating different biases and talking about different perks of the product they've already seen, try to get them back to the website and then convince them again. And then the last thing is going to be RLSA campaigns, which is remarketing lists for search ads. These are actually remarketing campaigns on the search network. So if somebody goes to, so what's really cool about this is normally, let's say, like I said, you're not going to want to go after people who just say, I want to buy a bike, because you're going to have tons of competitors, you're going to have tons of different traffic, right? But with RLSA campaigns, if they've already been to your website, you can set up the campaign with those broader targeting, because you already know that they're the ideal traffic. You've already paid the money to get them to your website. So if they go back to Google and search something like, I want to buy a bike, that's super broad, that you wouldn't want to go after if it's just pure cold traffic. You can target that because they've already showed the intent behind going to your site. So highly recommend running this for the higher intent keywords that are really going to pull people back to your site and convert. Next thing is going to be expanding your search strategy. High intent product terms outside of the product name. So let's say, if the product name is bicycle XYZ, you're really going to want to go towards people who are searching things like, I want to buy this bike with these shocks, whatever it is, like the type of product, but not the actual product. That's going to be the next step up there. That's generally going to be a little bit colder, less high intent. At this point, you're really trying to convince them on the exact product that they should buy, right? Or, the exact service they should buy if you're doing like lead gen or another type of business model. But definitely going to be the next step. Relative product terms for wider reach. So it's a little bit cooler at that point. It could be people who are searching, I want a bike that looks like this. Maybe not as high intent on like the actual specs of the bike. And I keep using this bike metaphor, but it'll help with explaining this. But a little bit colder on the intent, maybe less educated, people who just want a certain style. It could be people who want certain, functions, but don't know exactly what is going to do it for them. So that's the next step. A couple tools that we recommend really using: spyfoo.com, keywordtool.io, Google Keyword Planner. Spyfoo is really good for competitor research. You can see if someone's killing it, maybe you got some insider information. I won't say anything. You can use this tool to see what they're already targeting. if they're spending a lot of money on keywords in there, chances are they're probably making more money. I wouldn't always assume that, right? I've seen a lot of people who spend money targeting a ton of nonsense and they just keep running it for whatever reason until we take over the account. Or, some people are stubborn. It's really bizarre, some of the people you run into that are running businesses. You'd be surprised by the amount of money that's wasted on just, I don't want to say blatant like ego, but just weird thought processes people have. But don't always assume that if people are spending money on keywords, it's making them money. Always test it first before spending a ton of money and see how it does for you. Keyword.tool.io is going to give you a really good expansion on the keywords you're trying to target. So if you have an idea of what you want to target and you plug them into that, it's going to expand on that and give you more keywords you can pull from. And then the Google Keyword Planner is going to be the most reliable for search volume. So if you go in there, put the keywords you want to target in there, see how much volume there is, see what people are bidding on them. It's going to give you an idea of what bidding models you want to use, right? So at the end of the day, if you have a whole keyword list, but no one's actually searching that traffic, probably going to want to expand on that. This is going to get you a good head start. Let's see, and then pull search terms into separate campaigns. So we talked about this a couple times. When you do this, you're going to want to make sure to segment properly so you have relevancy. If you're targeting, relative product terms versus high intent product terms, keep those separate so you can see how they do separately, because sometimes one works better than the other and you want to spend money on one without affecting the other. So that's why you really want to keep that segmented. And then test a competitor campaign. So there's probably going to be competitors in your field. Competitors is a little bit tricky because you're trying to win over brand bias. People already trust your competitors. So you got to have really good, competent reasons why they'd want to get your product or service over the competitors to run this. But if you do, and you know that you have a winning product or service, I definitely recommend testing that. You're really just targeting the competitors' names, maybe their products. Once you get your ad in front of their traffic, pull them over to your site and convert them. And then phase 3 is going to be medium risk algorithm campaigns. Performance max campaigns, it's a hot topic nowadays. We have other videos on them. It's became a little bit lower than medium risk, I would say, as they've developed the actual campaign type, but it's not as low risk as really controlling the traffic. So we always recommend running this because it's generally going to produce some kind of revenue. The one thing you want to be careful for is the diminishing returns when you hit that invisible ceiling as far as scalability, because when you do hit that, if you don't work on other variables, you're not going to make more money if you keep trying to push it. It's just going to tank the campaign. So when scaling, you really want to make sure you're looking for that point where results drop and then pull the budget back a little bit before that point so you can at least coast with that higher ROI before you change some new variables and then raise it again. So PMax, we love it. It's, there's controversial ways to running it. We've really nailed, and I believe we're going to have a separate video talking about this, the exact way to build it out, although we've tested across different campaigns and accounts that spend, tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars per month. And then dynamic search campaigns. So that's going to give Google a little bit more control on the type of traffic it wants to go after based off of your actual website. So it's going to scan your website. It's going to see what products, services you have. It's going to show ads with actual ad copy it pulls from your site, pull it into the campaign, and then it's going to show it to the actual keywords determined on the algorithm who they think is going to convert. I know it sounds like it's a little bit nerve-wracking giving Google that much control, but a lot of times it does work pretty well, at least with the minimum budget. Test it out, see if it works for you. Scale it out, obviously, if it's making you money. But at the end of the day, you don't want to keep putting money on what's wasting money. And then curiosity intent searches. So this kind of is what I talked about in the beginning. When you're getting people who are like top of the pyramid, don't really know what they want yet, but are searching for things. Like if you're selling, let's say headache medicine, maybe your people are searching stuff like, why does my head hurt? How can I make it feel better, right? You're really getting people who don't know the solution yet, and then putting the solution in front of them, getting them to convert. If you do that, you really need strong assets because you're going to have to take them through the several stages of awareness of the buying process to get them to actual buy. And if you can't do that with the assets, it's going to be really hard to convert, and you're going to have a really hard time scaling out because it's not going to be profitable, right, if you can't convert. So the next thing is going to be phase 4. I'll go over these quickly because I know this video is already, a little bit long, but phase 4 is going to be on the YouTube side. YouTube's very scalable if you can crack the code there. That's going to be a mix of a lot of things I won't get into this video, but you're going to be doing a lot of audience testing, a lot of creative testing, demographic testing, a lot of testing on YouTube. That's what you need to figure out what works. But when you do find out what works, you can keep dumping money on it. It's generally going to scale out pretty well. Direct and engaging messaging. This is just a little bit of a couple tips on how you'd want to, progress in YouTube. Direct messaging that's really catching attention. You have a couple seconds when they see your first video to catch their attention to stay. So that's what that means there. 5 seconds precisely. And then on the YouTube side, highly recommend watching our other videos or assets on developing the strategy there, because it's really easy to waste money on YouTube. If you don't put the right strategy in place before you launch those campaigns, it'll just burn through your money. Google is not shy about taking your money. You probably learned this by now. So you really want to make sure you have either a very strong strategy in place or high control in place, so you do not just start throwing money into the garbage bin. I think that's going to be it for this presentation, though. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat below, the comments. We'll get to them. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Have a great day.